EU rejects Alexander Lukashenko Belarus leader's inauguration.
Here's a summary of the article.
The EU has said it does not recognize Alexander Lukashenko as the president of Belarus, a day after he was sworn in for a sixth term at a secret ceremony. The opposition says the poll was rigged in Mr. Lukashenko's favor. The country's electoral commission said Mr. Lukashenko, who has been in power for 26 years, won more than 80% of the vote, triggering weeks of protests in the former Soviet Republic. Several hundred people attended Mr. Lukashenko's swearing-in ceremony at the Palace of Independence on Wednesday, with many streets of Minsk sealed off. Mr. Lukashenko continues to be supported by neighboring Russia, his most important ally. Mr. Lukashenko, 66, insists he won fairly the 9 August election, and has depicted the protests against him as a Western-backed plot. Mr. Lukashenko's main political rival, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, who fled to neighboring Lithuania amid mass arrests, says she won 60 to 70% in places where votes were properly counted.
This post received a score of 33,000, with an upvote ratio of 96%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Greater than depicted the protests against him as a Western-backed plot. Hope he's not talking about the US. Our leadership is 7 inches up the sphincter of the same overlord calling shots from the Kremlin. We can't even keep a semi-literate tangerine from doing the same thing Lukashenko is doing.
This actually surprised me a lot, but the U.S. State Department also rejects Lukashenko as not being a legitimate leader. I didn't think Trump would allow that to happen.
This is from a State Department spokesperson. Wonder if Daddy Pompeo knows. This is a chilling paragraph from the article that hits hard right now. I can easily read Trump in place of Lukashenko.
I don't think there's any way that statement goes out without Pompeo being aware. Unacknowledging a foreign leader isn't something a spokesperson at State Department decides themselves. Those are decisions that get made at very high levels. That's why I found it so surprising.
It's not something a spokesman would decide for themselves in a non-pathological State Department that's functioning correctly and isn't part of a complete dumpster fire of an administration that's constantly cycling through acting directors that are hired and fired based solely on whether they seem loyal at any given moment and are often actively attempting to cripple the departments they're leading. So who knows?
In every picture I see of Lukashenko, he has the look of a little man who's out of his depth.
And while he's beholden to Putin now, he's been able to get to where he is largely on his own. Problem was that a sudden transition from a planned to free economy meant that a lot of state-run companies couldn't really function, so the economy's a mess and a lot of people have far less than under communism. Each election is a bit more dodgy than the last, each one's a bit less free, and the competition's silenced a bit more. He's cozied up to Putin, but he's more than just a stooge, he's cold, calculating and definitely knows his way around the world of politics.
They also tend to justify their theft of the executive office in the people's will to keep them on it. There's an article from The Guardian on populism which sheds some light on the phenomenon.
One thing people often overlook is that these types of ruler usually are popular among enough of the population to buffer them against dissent from the rest. If they have say 40% of the country behind them along with the army, and all the tools of state useful for disrupting opposition movements, what are the rest of the people supposed to do except obey? The vast majority have to sour on the leader before the army starts to waver, and the army has to stand down for a mass popular uprising to have a good chance of succeeding. Can't get there if every second or third person is actively siding with the ruler.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.